Hey, this is Alex Sherbanow, Marketing Manager with Old Town. As summer turns to fall and leaves begin to change colors, many of us are going through a change in mindset from fishing and recreational paddling to how we're going to hunt and access public lands. There are a lot of great free resources available to you through your local fish and game department so that you can identify really great hunting opportunities in public lands that are easily accessible. On top of those local fish and game resources, there are really great mapping technologies from companies like OnX Maps and HuntStand to help you identify further available resources. Once you identify these resources, you're going to want to start by looking for water access points. Today, I used a walk-in public land access point that brought us into a river that is heavily underutilized by public. There are also many public land launches and your local boat ramps that you can utilize. Once you've identified your water access point, you're going to want to look at things like the habitat around you. There's really great things that you can pick up on a map that'll help you identify where to get started when you're scouting and getting boots on the ground. Things like big curves in a river or oxbows where deer are likely to bed, changes in habitat where you maybe go from a hardwood to a swamp to a grassland, identifying key resources like food and water that animals are going to likely funnel into. Once you've identified these things, you can go ahead and open up your app in mapping technology and leave a waypoint. That waypoint is going to give you all the information you need so that when you get boots on the ground, you can quickly reference everything that you saw from an aerial view. E-scouting is a really important and great first step, but now it's time for the fun part, getting boots on the ground, loading up your canoe or kayak, and hitting the water. As you get on the water, there's a couple crucial things you're going to want to keep your eyes out for. One is just safety. You're going to want to make sure that you have a safe place to launch, and as you get on the water, pay attention to things like wind and current. Understand how your waterway is going to affect your travel at any given time. Keep an eye out for things like limbs and branches in the water, or overhangs in the river. Anything that you need to take caution around when you're traveling in the dark. It's a good idea to always mark those in your GPS app so that when you're coming in the dark, you know where to navigate and you're best prepared. Now, as you're traveling along the waterway, there's a couple other things to keep an eye out for, and that's sign. As you're going along your waterway, keep an eye out for trails where animals are crossing the river or even going into the lake for water. The other thing to look for is breaks in habitat, like you can see a little bit here, where you have a real thick area that may be bedding or even a travel corridor. Those are likely areas that are going to funnel animal movement and areas that you should really key in on. Now that you've found the sign, it's important to understand how you're going to safely access and hunt this land. You're going to want to look for a bank where you're going to be able to safely park your canoe and walk up onto the bank. Now, it's really important to understand that oftentimes along these waterways, banks can be slippery, so keep an eye out for mudslides. Where beavers are accessing water, those are oftentimes really great access points, but areas to take caution when walking over. Now that you're on the land, take a look around you. Don't just go stomping into the woods. Understand and take in the moment a little bit. Look at where the pattern's going. Look where deer are walking and where the lanes are. And don't be afraid to hang a trail camera up. Oftentimes I'll use a cellular camera so that I don't need to keep coming back to check my pictures, and they'll just send them straight to my device. Now that your camera's hung, you've scouted the land, it's important to just back out as quietly as you can. Make sure that your area stays as scent-free and pressure-free as possible. Mark everything in your GPS map and be ready for your first hunt. Now that we're done with our scouting, it's time to take all that information and put it into action for our first hunt of the year. Now, it's important to think about what gear you need to bring with you and how you're going to pack it so that you can have an effective and efficient access, keeping your hunt area quiet and scent-free. For me, that means packing some essential gear like my dry bag that's filled with all my essentials for a long day hunt. I use a lightweight tree saddle system like the tethered system and Tethered One sticks so that I can remain as quiet as possible while getting ready for my hunt. Now that we're ready for a successful hunt, the final step that I do before every hunt is make sure someone knows what my float plan is and where I'm going to be hunting. That way, in an emergency situation, I can be quickly located and get the help that may be needed. Now that we know what gear we need to bring with us and how we're going to pack it in, it's time to load up our canoes and kayaks, hit the water, and have a successful hunt. As we get ready to hit the woods this fall, it's really important that we think about how we're going to do it effectively and, most importantly, safely. There are a couple key elements to doing this. It's always important to have a properly fitted life jacket so that when you're entering the water, you can do it in a safe manner. It's always important to make sure that you keep this life jacket on until you are safely on shore. Many of the banks that you may encounter could be slippery, and the last thing you want to do is slide into the water. Now, outside of your life jacket, I always keep a safety net attached to my life jacket. That way, if I happen to fall overboard or slip into the water and get tangled up in branches or some of my gear, I can quickly cut it and get myself back to safety. Many times you're going to be entering or exiting the woods and waterways in the dark, so it's always important to abide by your local Fish and Game and Coast Guard laws. So that could require a 360 light and wearing a headlamp. It's always important to make sure you have a headlamp, an extra set of batteries, and or a flashlight with you so that you can navigate the woods and the waterways in the dark. One of the most important things that I bring with me is my dry bag. In my dry bag, I have multiple critical things like a GPS system, my phone so that I can contact someone in case of an emergency, a safety kit or field kit for first aid, and of course, those extra sets of batteries and my food for the day. Hunting in public land access is a great pastime that's been passed down for generations. We want to make sure that we're accessing and navigating the waterways in a safe manner for us and those around us. For more information on how to navigate your waterways, check in with your local Fish and Game department and visit us at oldtowncanoe.com.